Chapter 21 Hydra is in trouble, please give me flowers. Before leaving, Stark took a deep look at Yeling. Yeling felt that this person seemed to have a lot to say, but didn't know how to say it. It is estimated that the impact I received in a short period of time was too great, and it was a bit pig brain overload. Yeling doesn't have time to think about Stark's thoughts, that's the job of a psychiatrist. To be honest, he didn't care what the other person thought. What he values is the other party's connections and technical ability. The reason why Yeling told Stark everything he knew was not just about the small money, but mainly because he wanted to have a good relationship with Stark. Tony Stark is known as a person cursed by knowledge, and his technological research and development capabilities are so powerful that they are magical. If nothing else, let's just talk about that series of steel armors. If they were all released to the public, they would win the Nobel Prize for 100 years. In fact, even the infinitely furious and invincible green guy was beaten by Stark's anti-Hulk armor. Stark's scientific research invention ability is just like Batman's wisdom, and it is a bug-level existence to some extent. The multi-universe boss Kong the Conqueror is so awesome because he has acquired a time machine and a technological fortress in the future. Then, this boss set off a frenzy of conquest across the multi-universe, establishing the Kong dynasty that spanned the past, future, and present. The foundation of all this is based on those black technology equipment, and all of these equipment are based on Tony Stark's technology. In other words, Tony Stark is at least 1,000 years ahead of the current era in terms of technological inventions. Some people believe that this kind of technology is magic, and the effects are similar. With such technological research and development capabilities, Yeling definitely wants to make friends. In addition, Stark is not a serious hero, and the two of them are quite compatible in terms of personality. Advanced technology can always save a lot of things. I have to look to Tony Stark for a better life in the future. With Tony's intelligence, the interstellar era is no longer a dream. Traveling through the universe, isn't it a wonderful thing to have a taste of alien girls? Speaking of which, Star-Lord is really happy. It's almost like Collector, an illustration of alien girls. Damn, I'm so envious. While thinking about it, Yeling checked the task system on the panel. There is only one mission above: kill the snakehead and hand over a Hydra leader to Tony Stark. The mission rewards Super Soldier Serum X1 and 1000 experience. When Yeling saw this mission, he smiled happily. Hydra was going to be in bad luck this time. This task is not difficult. Hydra's group is no threat to Yeling now. This reward is also very generous. In his opinion, just 1000 experience points is not a loss. Originally, Yeling wanted to settle down and live a happy but salty life. This mission system fits his expected plan very well. If there is a mission, Yeling will do the mission and become stronger. If there is no mission, he will enjoy life and be very smooth. Shortly after Tony Stark left, Yeling looked at Polaris, who was controlling the spatula and tinkering with breakfast in a strange way, and instantly gave up the idea of trying it. So, he stood up and prepared to go out directly. Before leaving, Yeling also told Polaris, "I have something to deal with. After I leave, don't open the door to anyone. If you are in danger, call me." "What did you talk about just now?" Polaris, wearing a bear scarf, looked curious. Yeling knew what Lorna was curious about, and replied, "It has nothing to do with mutant, it's just a personal matter, a follow-up to the last transaction." "Then I'm going to." As he said that, Polaris Lorna put down the spatula. She felt that she was also a beneficiary of the transaction and could not just take the benefits without working. Yeling looked upright and solemn. "I negotiated the deal, and I should take care of anything." Just stay at home and don't go out. Only when you are safe can I rest assured. Yet, Polaris responded, his body trembling slightly. It had been a long time since she had felt this warm feeling of being cared for. Maybe this is what home feels like. She had no doubt about Yeling's words. At the moment, Yeling had arrived under the apartment building. Looking at the white clouds on the horizon, he faintly blew out a smoke ring with a look of sadness on his face. He took out his cell phone and made a call. Mr. Yeling, I have been waiting for your call. Are you waiting for me at the Continental Hotel or are you waiting for me? Mr. Yeling is a smart man and I am the sincerity of Continental Hotel. Very well, wait for me at the Manhattan Hotel. In the Manhattan Hotel, Yeling breathed a long sigh of relief. Now he just feels refreshed and relaxed. Then Yeling stood up straight from the big bed and stood in front of the window, overlooking this gorgeous world. Too many people have been deceived by the feasting and feasting world in front of them and have lost their original aspirations. Some people even get carried away by desire and become completely depraved. Yeling felt very sad about this. On the big bed, beauty killer Perkins was still sleeping. This woman is coquettish and charming, with an attractive figure. She is a good fighting partner. However, this person is not a good person. In the original novel, this woman is said to be decisive in killing, typical of a ruthless person who doesn't say much, and she almost killed the legendary killer John Wick. This is no longer a rose with thorns but a rose with poison. This is definitely not a problem for Yeling. No matter how dangerous this woman is, she cannot threaten him. Those who can threaten Yeling now must have at least apocalypse-level combat power. As for Hydra, it's simply not good enough. I just don't know which version Quicksilver and Wanda are. The Quicksilver in the movie can actually be killed by a bullet, no one else. On the contrary, Wanda's temperament has been rising. He even later gained the power to rewrite reality. However, there is no news about the two siblings yet, and even Tony has not yet become Iron Man. Let us think about which snakehead to catch first. Yeling turned around and looked at Perkins and said calmly, "Tell the Continental Hotel to clear up the situation." After saying that, Yeling decisively turned around and left the room without a trace of hesitation or nostalgia. In the room, Perkins opened his eyes slightly, reached for the phone at hand and dialed. "Is he satisfied?" Winston's voice was as calm as ever. Perkins reluctantly stood up, gritted his teeth and said fiercely, "He's just an animal. I've lost a lot this time. Winston, you have to give me a big F-king sum this time." Chapter 22 The Inhumans and the Origin of Hydra. Please give me flowers. When Yeling got home, he found Polaris making lunch. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. It seemed that he could not avoid lunch if he avoided breakfast. "You've finished your work. Didn't you encounter any danger?" Polaris, who was obsessed with housework, had not forgotten what happened in the morning. She thought it must be something very important and urgent for Yeling to leave in such a hurry, and it might be related to the safety of the two of them. That's why Yeling is so anxious. There is no way, Yeling's performance has always been too perfect. Even if there is an element of acting, it is still at the level of an Oscar winner. At this level of Polaris, Yeling is too far behind. Yeling can easily play Polaris to applause. Even though Yeling had already awakened the Man of Steel, he still blushed slightly after hearing Polaris' concern. He scratched his head and suggested, half changing the subject and half compensating, "Let's go shopping in the mall today." Polaris, who used ability to control the spatula, heard this, his eyes lit up, and then he nodded reservedly, "Okay." Soon, Yeling regretted this decision. Facts have proved that there is no girl who does not like shopping, and there is no girl who does not enjoy shopping. When he returned home in the evening, Yeling looked tired, but Polaris was still very excited. Yeling finally understood why men are afraid of going shopping with women. Although it is a great pleasure to look at Ms. Polaris's perfect profile and charming temperament, it is also really tiring. An afternoon trip to the mall made Yeling feel more tired than a night of playing poker. So as soon as he got home, he ran back to his room like a middle-aged man who was afraid of being urged by his wife to pay public food. Seeing this scene, Polaris pursed his lips and showed an innocent and beautiful smile. Back in the room, Yeling looked at the task panel again. Now that he has finished venting his anger, he is ready to take the time to complete this task. Then, next, Yeling is ready to choose a suitable target. Hydra is a somewhat sophisticated organization. It does not have just one head as its name suggests, but has many leaders. Moreover, these leaders have their own projects and forces and usually do not interfere with each other. Yeling did not tell Stark all the information about Hydra. Hydra has 3 very important periods, first the origin period, then the rise period, and finally the latent period. Most people think that Hydra was founded by Red Skull during World War II. But in fact, Red Skull is just the man who developed Hydra. The true origin of Hydra dates back to a much longer period, that is, the Mayan period, which was thousands of years old. Millions of years ago, the battle between the 2 major races in the universe, the Kree and the Skrulls, became intense. In order to create more warriors, the Kree conducted inhumane biochemical experiments on Earth. They used the power of the obelisk, the so-called prophet, to transform humans into another special race. This mutant human race not only has a long lifespan, but also has various powerful magical abilities. This is the origin of the Inhumans. After the Mayan period came, a Mayan warrior was captured by the Kree Reapers and experimented with alien transformation. So a stranger named Hive was born. The head of the Hive resembles an octopus, just like a monster, and it has the ability to transfer consciousness infinitely and parasitize others. This ability is so powerful that he can control other aliens, much like the mythical Hydra, an immortal existence. As a result, he gained a loyal following of admirers. However, another part of the ancient Inhumans were afraid of his power, and finally used Kree technology to banish the Hive to a remote and desolate planet. In order to save their idols, Hive admirers established the Hydra organization and constantly put humans as food to the Hives who were exiled to distant planets. This is the origin of Hydra and the ultimate secret hidden by the organization Hydra. During World War II, under the leadership of the ambitious Red Skull, the entire Hydra organization achieved rapid advancement. John Schmidt, who is obsessed with Norse mythology, discovered the Tesseract in Norway that Odin had hidden here in ancient times. So he asked his chief scientist Arnim Zola to start developing advanced and powerful weapons using this as energy source. Thanks to the research on space gems, their technological level and weapons and equipment were significantly ahead of the Allied forces at that time. As a result, this guy was unlucky enough to meet Captain America, who had big breasts and butt that could rival the overlord of the universe. The entire Hydra organization was severely damaged and almost destroyed. The heads of various departments and agencies of Hydra were arrested and imprisoned. After that, the organization Hydra exerted their unparalleled penetration and lurking abilities. The predecessor organization of S.H.I.E.L.D. at that time was the Strategic Science Corps, which developed and grew step by step based on the remains of the Hydra organization. They inherited many precious knowledge resources, equipment, and scientific research personnel from the Hydra organization. But this also gave Hydra a chance to make a comeback. Hydra took the opportunity to infiltrate the Strategic Science Corps and became one of its own. This is the latent period after the rise. As of today, the entire S.H.I.E.L.D. can be called Snake and Shield. Ye-Ling even suspected that as long as he could say Hydra Hail, he could walk sideways in SHIELD. The leader of Hydra during its origin was the Inhuman Hive, during its rise it was Red Skull John Schmidt, and during its latent period it was Pierce, the former director of SHIELD. The fate of the first two bosses was the same, and they were all exiled to a distant planet. However, the Hive that was invincible in the past is now hungry and can only survive, and Red Skull John Schmidt has become the watchdog of Soul Gem. On the contrary, Pierce was prospering, not only living a relaxed and leisurely retirement life, but also secretly holding great power. Pierce is the ruthless man who goes undercover and becomes the gang boss. He is called the King of Infernal Affairs. Chapter 23 Pierce, here I come, please give me flowers and collect them. The goal is obvious. The decision is yours. Alexander Pierce. Veal steak braised with tomatoes. Lorna came to Ye-Ling with a plate of black food. Ye-Ling didn't know how many sets of clothes Lorna bought that day. Anyway, I haven't seen the same thing in the morning, noon, and night. Today's outfit is a dark green long skirt, which perfectly matches Lorna's hair color. The fitted design perfectly outlines Lorna's devilish figure. Very perky. Rich. Full. But what was different from Lorna's beautiful image was the food that was served. Looking at the charred black object steaming on the plate that was hard to distinguish. Ye-Ling looked strange and said, is this steak? A blush crept onto Lorna's cheeks. I followed what I learned in the video, and the fire became a little bit stronger. Ye-Ling recalled the scene of Lorna controlling the spatula while cooking in the kitchen. Hiss, it is indeed a bit eye-catching. Well done, don't learn it next time. Ye-Ling picked up the plate and walked into the kitchen. After the sound of pots and pans rang out in the kitchen, Ye-Ling came out with 2 steaming steaks. Try this steak. The browning from the Maillard reaction is just right. It fully releases the meaty aroma of beef and locks in the juice. Ye-Ling cooks well-done steak, which is different from medium rare. Well done is the test of the chef's ability to control the fire and the quality of the beef. The intelligence attribute of more than 100 points is not given for nothing. Smell the aroma of the steak and look at the shiny steak. Soon Lorna moved her index finger. Cut off a piece and put it in your mouth. Tender and juicy. Lorna's eyes lit up, and her mouth couldn't suppress the happiness of tasting delicious food. One more piece, another piece after another. After finishing a whole steak at a lightning speed, Lorna was still a little unsatisfied. Stick out your little tongue and lick the sauce around your mouth. From Ye-Ling's perspective, Lorna's movements are full of charm. I never knew you had such skills. Ye-Ling swallowed a piece of steak and said, actually, cooking skills only require a certain basic theory and a little inspiration. The same goes for your ability. Magnetic fields don't only act on steel. After hearing this, Lorna was thoughtful. Putting down the tableware, Lorna said, I found the prison where Campbell is holding mutant in New York. The defense level there is very high, and important people must be locked up inside. Ye-Ling put down the knife and fork and looked at Lorna. Do you have any idea? No matter who we rescue from inside, Campbell will definitely suffer serious damage. The Trident Building, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s headquarters in Washington. On the top floor, Pierce was wearing a suit and leather shoes, and his blonde hair was neatly combed. He is having a meeting with the high-level directors of the Security Council. The topic is the funding issue of SHIELD. Nick Fury is among them. Black leather jacket, black pants, black lining, black eye mask, all black. Only the bright reflection on the head. There is definitely still a dark face that has remained unchanged for thousands of years, and it is particularly dark today. He is here to accept criticism and is not qualified to speak. S.H.I.E.L.D's expenses in the first half of the year completely exceeded normal standards. Just one study on the Space Cube cost tens of billions of dollars. Furui. You need to give the directors an explanation. Although Pierce said something serious, he actually didn't care at all. How much money S.H.I.E.L.D used was not its own money. Even if it's tens of billions, it's just defense spending. But recently, Nick Fury has been doing some Avengers again. This made Pierce feel a little uneasy. This plan was stopped many times by itself, but Nick Fury still carried out it privately. Nick Fury, who was named, secretly cursed FKFK in his heart. Just as he was about to explain, his pupils suddenly shrank. The huge floor-to-ceiling window behind Pierce shattered. Bang! A strong wind surged into the conference room, instantly causing all the directors present to flip over. Amidst the howling wind, Ye-Ling stepped into the conference room from the window wearing a black windbreaker. The hem of his clothes dances in the wind, like a black flag fluttering and making a hunting sound. Diddy! The direct impact instantly triggered S.H.I.E.L.D's defense mechanism. The alarms kept ringing. Damn, who is this guy? Terrorist! The directors present immediately fell down with their heads in their hands and ducked under the table. Nick Fury immediately pulled out his pistol. Press the emergency button in your hand. Explosion-proof doors fell instantly around the conference room, blocking all exits. Ye-Ling scanned the audience and immediately noticed Nick Fury. It's so dark. It's indeed a Maha Faxman with ability bonus. Under Nick Fury's sharp one-eyed gaze, Ye-Ling walked up to Pierce. He grabbed the back of Pierce's neck. He picked up Pierce like a chicken. Wait, what are you going to do? Pierce shouted in confusion as he was being lifted up. Come with me. Mom, FK, let go of Chairman Pierce. Nick Fury raised his gun and aimed it at Ye-Ling. For a moment, Nick Fury recalled that day more than 20 years ago in his mind. He is also a S.H.I.E.L.D high-level agent. Magneto fell from the sky, and with a wave of his hand, a stadium rose from the ground. That feeling of oppression is so familiar. Is this guy a mutant too? At the same time, Crossbones Rumlow also rushed in with security forces. Put down Chairman Pierce, or we'll shoot right away. The security forces were armed to the teeth, and the firearms in their hands shone with a faint blue light. Apparently inherited from Hydra Dr. Zora's Tesseract weaponization technology. Looking at Nick Fury, who was on a united front with Rumlow, Ye-Ling smiled. This guy Crossbones is also a Hydra, so naturally the team he brought cannot escape. It seems like S.H.I.E.L.D is really a den of snakes. Does Nick Fury know you are Hydra Pierce? Ye-Ling just finished speaking. Bang! Severe pain came from the back of his head. Nick Fury's vision went dark and he fell forward. The second before he lost consciousness, Nick Fury saw his attacker. It's Rumlow. Looking at Nick Fury lying on the ground, Ye-Ling joked, he took a bullet for you, and you do this to him. Pierce looked indifferent. Fury is a good guy, but our paths are different. Take him down and fully take over the Insight project. After giving orders to Rumlow, Pierce raised his head and looked at Ye-Ling. I thought we could sit down and talk. Ye-Ling stretched out his finger, shook it and said, I'm not here to invite you. Looking at Yelling's smile, Pierce's heart skipped a beat. Bang! The 10 centimeters thick explosion-proof door was knocked away by Yelling's punch. The destination is New York and the time is half an hour. As he spoke, Yelling lifted his feet off the ground and was about to take off. Feeling your feet leave the ground, the strong wind instantly ruffles your delicate hair. Pierce finally couldn't stand it any longer and immediately stopped. Wait. Wait. I can arrange a flight. Chapter 24, Use this to test me, please give me flowers and collect them. On the plane, Yelling took the champagne from the blonde stewardess. As Pierce's private jet, the stewardess must also be Hydra without a doubt. The uniform is just right, and the black stockings outline her beautiful legs. Facing Yelling's aggressive gaze, he did not dodge. Instead, the scenery is looming in a teasing way. Mr. Yelling, I think there is no need for you to be an enemy of our Hydra. Join us and much of this world will be yours. Pierce persuaded Yelling with a sincere look. Be loyal to others when entrusted by them. I am a very principled person. Yelling shrugged and drank the champagne, stroking the stewardess's silky black stockings. Seeing Yelling's behavior, Pierce became even more sure that Yelling was someone he could win over. As long as you are willing to join Hydra, money and women are no problem. Tony Stark, I'll convince him. With a look from Pierce, the stewardess leaned into Yelling's arms. Her charming eyes are as silky as silk, and the fullness of her chest rubs against Yelling's chest. Yelling looked calm. Use this to test Cotters. A strong man like you must not be fooled by so-called justice. Pierce pursues success, convinced that everyone has a weakness. I entered Hydra because of power. Rumlow is motivated by a desire for money. Yelling's weakness is obvious. Oh, young man, you are so angry. Justice, I think you're wrong, Pierce. Justice is just an excuse for the strong. I have my own rules. Pierce was speechless. You should take your hands off the flight attendant's head. In a villa with an ocean view in New York. Tony was quite surprised when he received the news. So fast, Alexander Pierce. Completely ignoring the feelings of the blonde beauty on the bed, he pulled up his pants and left. Happy, I don't care where you are, I'll be at the central apartment in half an hour. The silver Audi R8 turns into lightning and speeds along the streets of New York. Traffic lights are the same. J.A.R.V.I.S. Find information about Alexander Pierce. Time was running out, and Tony could only order J.A.R.V.I.S. in the car. Searching. 2 minutes later. The search is completed. There are 24,562 pieces of relevant information. After filtering, there are 2 pieces left. Alexander Pierce, former SHIELD director and current chairman of the International Security Council. The information shows that Pierce joined S.H.I.E.L.D. after World War II and was a colleague of your father. Tony frowned as he listened to the introduction of JARVIS. One more thing, it might be a coincidence. Speak, JARVIS. According to the travel records, over the past 10 years, Pierce's travels overlapped with the locations where the Winter Soldier appeared. Tony's eyes narrowed when he heard the Winter Soldier. Genius intuition told him, Pierce must know something about his parents' death. Squeak. The car stopped at the entrance of the central apartment, and Tony went straight to Yelling's home. As soon as I arrived outside the door, I heard Yelling's voice. The person who wants to see you has arrived. Go and open the door. Opening the door, Pierce greeted with a smile. He didn't notice at all that Tony's eyes were red at this moment, and his fists were clenching. Tony, your dad Howard and I worked together. Pierce politely extended his hand. Tony smiled and threw a right hook. Bang! A punch hit Pierce's eye, instantly knocking him out of his sight. Ouch! Are you crazy? I'm Pierce. Your father and I are friends. Not only did these words not earn Tony an apology, this stimulated Tony even more. He kicked Pierce down with a left kick and rode up. He opened his fists left and right, aiming at Pierce's old face, with full firepower. Bang bang bang! Tony didn't stop until his hands broke. Bah! You bitch, you don't deserve to mention his name. Shaking away the blood on his hands, Tony grabbed Pierce's collar and asked angrily, "Tell me honestly how my parents died." Although Pierce is greedy for life and fear of death, he also has many years of agent experience. He showed no fear in the face of Tony's questions and anger. "Hey, I don't know." He knew that Tony didn't have the courage to kill anyone. He knew the Stark family very well. Seeing that Pierce was still so stubborn, Tony turned to look at Yeling, who was watching the show. Yeling smiled slightly. "Yes, but you have to pay more." "Okay, 50 million. Tony agreed immediately. Yeling stood up and walked towards Pierce. Seeing Yeling approaching, Pierce instantly felt a chill. His many years of experience in watching people tell him that Yeling is really good at doing things. 20 years younger, he might really not be afraid of death. But since I tasted the convenience brought by power, Pierce is no longer willing to hold power and live a life of luxury and luxury. Yeling grabbed Pierce's neck and opened the window. Hoo-ho! 100 meters above the ground, the wind howled. "I'll just count to 5, 1. The suffocating feeling on his neck made Pierce dizzy. But the feeling of emptiness beneath his feet made Pierce's heart race. 3. Why is it 3-2? Pierce was startled and spoke with difficulty. "Say." "I'll say it." "Turn around and throw Pierce to the ground, earning 50 million. After some questioning, Tony finally learned the truth about his parents' murder. Yeling received the reward from the mission system. The mission is completed and the reward has been distributed. A tube of blue potion instantly appeared in his hand. Super Soldier Serum. Prop description: a chemical solvent developed by the German scientist Dr. Erginus during World War II to enhance the user's physical and mental strength. Super Soldier Serum has become a bit common in the Marvel world. In addition to Captain America and Bucky the Winter Soldier, there are at least 13 guys with the Super Soldier Serum. Baron Zemo has 5 sleeping Winter Soldiers in his possession. Flag Smasher also stole 8 serums originally. Even when Bucky killed the Howards, it was because of the Super Soldier Serum. This thing is of no use to Yeling, but good stuff for Lorna. If he had Captain America's physical fitness, he wouldn't have been chased so miserably by the hyena. Name: Yeling. Race: human race. Pedigree: Gold Superman. Age: 16. Level: Level 5 31,200. Power: 294. Agility: 526. Stamina: 286. Intelligence: 198. Charm: 132. Lucky: 13. Current free points: 4. Ability: Elementary level speed, Body of Steel under development. Achievement: Traveler Gold. Add free points to luck again. Watch the lucky points turn to 17. Yeling couldn't help but sigh. The road to becoming the European Emperor is still long. Suddenly, Yeling turned to look out the window, and her figure suddenly disappeared. Bang! The glass shattered and a bullet entered. Pierce's shocked expression flashed through his head. Chapter 25, Pick up the ears, please give me flowers and collect them. On a building a kilometer away, the heavily armed Rumlow put away his gun confidently. You brought this on yourself, Pierce. Dr. Zola, the traitor Pierce has been executed. Just as he finished speaking, he heard a noise behind him. Rumlow quickly drew his gun and fired. Bang! The bullet was shot out, but Yeling held it in his hand. What? The hem of the black windbreaker fluttered in the wind, and Yeling looked down in the air with a smile. But this smile made Rumlow feel that all the blood in his body froze. The animal's survival instinct left him with only one thought. Escape. The faster you escape, the better. Stay away from this dangerous man. Rumlow has only ever been afraid of his master, Imitation Master. But now he felt a dangerous aura from Yeling that was 100 times more dangerous than his master's. Wait, my target is not you, I'm just here to kill Pierce. Yeling landed with her feet on the ground and flicked her fingers. Bang! Rumlow only felt a pain in his left ear, followed by raging tinnitus. I definitely know, otherwise you wouldn't have a chance to speak now. The severe pain made Rumlow's veins bulge, but he did not dare to scream in pain in front of Yeling. He could only grit his teeth and make a faint groan of pain. It was just a lesson in shooting my house. Tell Zola that within 2 days, let me see Hydra's sincerity. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind keeping him in the computer forever. Rumlow endured the pain and stood up, lowered his head and said, Yes, I will definitely bring him. As soon as he took a step, he was stopped by Yeling. Pick your ears up. Rumlow took a deep breath, turned around and picked up the ear. Early the next morning, Yeling woke up from bed but did not see Lorna. Moving to another apartment again, Pierce's death was left to Tony to deal with. There didn't seem to be any waves. While Yeling was thinking about Lorna's whereabouts, Lorna walked into the room dressed in casual clothes. The upper body is a black leather jacket and the lower body is graffiti jeans. Different from the gentleness at home, this dress highlights Lorna's heroic spirit. Yeling, I think you need to watch the news. With that said, Lorna turned on the TV. Arms magnate Tony Stark is holding a press conference. The Daily Bugle is live for you. On TV, Tony Stark in a suit and tie stood on the podium. Facing many media, he solemnly said, First of all, I want to announce something. From today on, the Stark Enterprise military department will be shut down indefinitely. As soon as these words came out, the whole audience was shocked. Obadiah on the side was stunned. He thought Tony held the press conference to make some gossip. Tony, are you drunk? Are you talking nonsense again? Obadiah stepped forward and tried to grab Tony's microphone. Just kidding, I made a lot of money reselling arms. Once the arms department is shut down, what will you eat? The weapons of Stark Enterprises have always occupied the title of the most advanced weapons in the world. Now Tony actually has to give up this huge amount of benefits. Obadiah definitely disagrees. But before Obadiah could get closer, Tony's bodyguard Happy blocked the way. And one more thing. Tony's words instantly captured everyone's attention. After scanning the entire audience, Tony said loudly, I also want to announce an organization that will aim its guns at us at any time. S.H.I.E.L.D. They spy on the whole world. Profess to protect the world's security, but underneath this mask, their true identity is Hydra, the Nazi organization during World War II. After speaking, Tony snapped his fingers. Completely lifted the restrictions of JARVIS almost instantly, a large number of s.h.i.e.l.d. confidential documents were published on the Internet by JARVIS. In addition, latent evidence of Hydra was also announced. All devices around the world that are connected to the Internet have received it. Even Yeling and Lorna's mobile phones received it. S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra are completely exposed to the public. Yeling looked at the files on his phone, raised his eyebrows and smiled. It's definitely something Tony would do. Lorna also looked through the confidential documents and frowned. They're experimenting with mutants too. A pair of beautiful eyes full of anger, glowing with magnetic green light. Regarding this, Yeling is definitely not surprised. Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. have been paying attention to mutant for a long time. At the moment, Quicksilver and Wanda are, as expected, in the Hydra base. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Hydra in S.H.I.E.L.D. is just a branch. Lorna was shocked by Yeling's words. Her beautiful eyes widened. This is just a branch. This insight plan can kill thousands of people. One branch can cause such a disaster. This was far beyond Lorna's knowledge. That's true, but it's true. Hydra has existed for thousands of years. This part of S.H.I.E.L.D. is just the remnants of Red Skull's crew. As Yeling tells the history of Hydra, Lorna felt a sense of despair rising from the bottom of her heart. Along with it comes injustice. These people have a lot of crimes in their hands, but they can still live such a comfortable life. Mutant just wants to have his own right to survive. But he had to hide here and there like a mouse. There are so many huge organizations secretly eyeing Mutant. No, I have to find a way to contact Eclipse and the others. Although she knew she was facing a strong enemy, Lorna still chose to fight. Seeing that Lorna had made up her mind, Yeling took out a tube of blue liquid. What's this? Super Soldier Serum. Lorna's eyes lit up when she heard the name of the blue liquid. Is this what Pierce said yesterday led to the death of Tony's parents? In one sentence, the fact that Lorna eavesdropped was exposed. But obviously, Yeling doesn't care about this. Yeling nodded, yes, this thing is of no use to me. But you probably need it right now. Without hesitation, Lorna took the serum. Thank you, Yeling, I owe you once. Lorna rolled up her sleeves, revealing her white forearms. Bah! Super Soldier Serum is injected directly. Act resolutely and do what you say. As the blue chemical solvent entered her body, Lorna began to feel changes in herself. The pain caused by the stimulation of the serum made Lorna break into a cold sweat. But he gritted his teeth and persisted without letting out a groan of pain. A large amount of sweat wetted his clothes. Lorna, who looked like she was covered in sweat, exuded a different kind of charm. But Yeling knew this was Lorna's critical moment. After walking out of the bedroom and closing the door, my keen hearing heard the footsteps coming from the door of the apartment. Before anyone could press the doorbell, Yeling opened the door. The person who came here was dressed in less professional attire, a turtleneck sweater jacket, a small suit, a black silk skirt, and gold-rimmed glasses. The most conspicuous thing is the beautiful red hair. Hello, Agent Romanoff. Chapter 26 The Birth of Iron Man. Please give me flowers and collection. The person coming is not someone else. Black Widow. Natasha Romanoff. Yeling looked up and down at Black Widow's OL outfit. She is indeed a super agent, a glamorous poison. It really looks like what you dress up. Yeling had heard Tony say before that he had found a hot administrative assistant. Faced with Tony's showing off, Yeling immediately knew that it was the Black Widow who had entered Stark Enterprises undercover. Tony was shot. The Black Widow, whose identity was exposed, looked calm. He opened his mouth and told the news he had brought. Just after the press conference just ended, Tony's convoy was attacked on the road. Tony was shot in the heart and was taken to the hospital. Yeling raised his eyebrows and spread his hands. "What are you doing to me? If you were shot, you should go see a doctor. The New York hospital should have the best gunshot wound surgeons in America." Black Widow came up with an agreement. "Before Tony fell into coma, he prepared an agreement for you." "Oh." Yeling took the agreement and took a quick look at it. "It's really a big deal. 30% of Stark Enterprises shares. Tony is actually willing to trade it." The content of the agreement is actually very simple. Tony took out 30% of Stark Enterprises shares. In exchange for Yeling protecting Secretary Paybo and industrial security. The silent task system in my mind reappeared. Mission from Tony, Son of Destiny detected. The mission is released to protect the target Pepper from being attacked by Hydra and to protect Stark Enterprise from being invaded. Task reward, Random Variant Ability 1, 2000 experience. Note that the current invasion rate of Stark Enterprises is 12%. When the invasion rate reaches 50%, it will be considered a mission failure. A good reward. In order to become the European Emperor, I accepted it. What's more, after success, he will still have 30% of Stark Enterprises shares. It's a good deal, I agree. Yeling was about to sign the agreement, but Black Widow blocked the signature position. "Director Nick Fury is missing and you should be the last person to see him." Black Widow stared at Yeling's face with her beautiful eyes. It seems that he wants to get clues from Yeling's expression. Yeling naturally disdained lying. Seeing this, he sat directly on the sofa and crossed his hands behind his head. "Yes, so what? Black Widow is beautiful, but it's not like Yeling can't walk when she sees a beautiful woman. I need to know about Nick Fury. Tell me what you want." After a few simple conversations, Black Widow quickly understood Yeling's character. "If there is no profit, don't wake up early. If you don't see the rabbit, don't let go of the hawk." Smart. You are indeed a high-level agent, but you don't seem to have much leverage. Yeling was sitting up and looking at Black Widow with a smile. After Black Widow thought for a moment, she said, "How much are you willing to sell this information for?" As soon as he finished speaking, Yeling's cell phone rang with a text message. Beep. When I opened it, I saw a transfer from an unknown account. $20 million. Signed, Zola. Soon, the phone rang. In front of Black Widow, Yeling turned on the speakerphone. "Hello Mr. Yeling, I am Zola. Hydra's apology, have you received it?" The voice coming from the other end of the phone was all too familiar to Black Widow. "Dr. Zola. Hydra remnants. But isn't he dead? There is no reason to live until now." Yeling opened his mouth and said, "I received it, but the 20 million apology didn't seem too sincere." As soon as these words came out, there was silence on the other side of the phone for a moment. "That's nature, that's just part of it. I will arrange for the rest to be delivered as soon as possible to ensure your satisfaction." Listening to Zola's promise, Yeling replied, "Okay, then I'll wait for your surprise." After that, he hung up the phone. Looking at Black Widow again. "How's it going? Have you thought about your bargaining chip?" Feeling Yelling's aggressive gaze, Black Widow stretched her long legs and sat on the sofa. In the hospital, Pepper waited anxiously outside the ward. "Thinking of Tony being assassinated, I still have lingering fear. A messy-haired assassin fell from the sky. The silver-white metal arm easily overturned the car in front. The moment he saw Tony, he shot decisively. If Happy hadn't driven his car with all his strength and knocked the assassin away, it is estimated that everyone in the car will have to report to the scene. Ding! The doctor came out of the operating room. Tony was also admitted to the ICU ward. Pibot stepped forward and grabbed the doctor. "Doctor, how is Tony?" The doctor took off his hat, revealing his shiny bald head. There was a hint of regret in his eyes. Most of the warhead has been removed, but one fragment is lodged near the heart. If you take it out rashly, your life may be in danger. But that shrapnel is in danger of entering the heart at any time. Hearing this, tears flashed in Pibot's eyes. Is there no other way? Facing Pibot's words, the doctor shook his head and sighed. I have already done my best. Pibot held back tears and asked, how much time is left? I can't guarantee this, but half a month at most. Hearing the news, Pibot felt like he was struck by lightning. The whole person took 2 or 3 steps back. It was the doctor who held Pibot from falling. Miss Pepper, Mr. Stark. We really tried our best. Pibot, who used all his strength to stand firm, held back tears. Okay, I understand, I want to go in and see him. Well, Mr. Stark needs to rest and don't talk too long. After sending the doctor away, Pibot entered the ward. Tony was lying on the bed, his face pale. The whole body is covered with various medical instruments, his chest was covered with bandages. Seeing Pepper come in, Tony put on his signature coquettish smile. Wow, my little Pepper looks intact. Upon hearing this, Pibot immediately burst into tears and laughed. In my limited life, I am so lucky to meet an angel like you. Pibot's expression darkened, then he smiled and said, the doctor said you will get better soon, don't think too much. Tony reached out and caressed Pepper's cheek. It's okay, I found someone to protect you. I'm pressed for time. Get ready and let's go back to the Stark building. Hearing Tony's words, Pepper was shocked. No, you have to be in the hospital now. Your body. Tony shook his head and said, I can only wait to die in the hospital, but when I return to the laboratory, I can take another gamble. Tony already knew from the doctor when he woke up from the bullet fragment in his heart. I have a bold idea in my mind now. As long as the shrapnel is restrained, you can survive. Then build a permanent magnet. Micronuclear reactors are a great idea. And the assassin's silver arm. If only I had an armor made of the same material. Isn't it possible to not be afraid of Hydra and also protect Pibot? Chapter 27. If it's difficult to do, then don't do it. Please give me flowers and collect them. After coming out of the central apartment, Black Widow walked a little shaky. Sitting in the car, sorting out the clothes messed up by yelling. It's just a monster. Even the Black Widow's modified body in the Red House is a bit intolerable. Maybe this is pain and happiness. After finishing the recollection, Black Widow made a call. Hawkeye, I got Fury's whereabouts. Okay, let's meet at the safe house. Black Widow was about to start the car when the door was opened. Yelling sat down and sat down. What are you doing here? Black Widow instantly became alert. Relax, I'm just here for a ride. Yelling smiled. I took over Tony's mission and took me to find Miss Pepper. Black Widow frowned. I'm not your personal driver. Yelling lay back and adjusted the seat to a comfortable position. If I'm in a good mood, maybe I can help you rescue Fury. As he spoke, Yelling's evil hand touched Black Widow's smooth thigh. Smooth to the touch. Unlike Perkins' plumpness, you can also experience a different sense of power if you feel it carefully. Yeling can play with these beautiful legs for a year. As for the black stockings that Black Widow wore when she arrived, they have become war damaged and can no longer be worn. Boom! Black Widow rolled her eyes at Yeling and stepped on the accelerator. In Stark Enterprises, Obadiah, who looked angry, was lashing out. "What are you talking about? Why can't I go in? I'm Tony's uncle, I want to see him." Obadiah, who was dressed in a suit and ties, stared closely at Pibbo, who was standing in front of him. There were 5 sturdy bodyguards standing behind him. Even wearing a suit, it is difficult to cover up the tattoos on the palms and neck. The waist is still bulging, so it goes without saying that he is armed. The evil spirit kept other staff away. When Obadiah heard that Tony had returned to the company, he rushed over immediately. But he wasn't here to visit Tony. Tony's press conference had already cost him a lot. What's more important is that the terrorists have already called. If weapons can no longer be supplied, the next thing on the line was Obadiah's life. So Obadiah's bald head was already covered in sweat. Unexpectedly, Pibbo blocked him from the laboratory. "Mr. Obadiah, Tony said he won't see anyone now. So please go back." Obadiah ripped off his tie and stretched out his big hand directly towards Pibbo. "If you don't know what's wrong, get out of here." The broad palm went directly to Pibbo's face. This time, Pibbo's face was probably swollen for half a month. The next moment, a black shadow flashed. Yeling's tall figure stood in front of Pibbo, accurately grasping Obadiah's big hand. "Miss Pepper is my client. I'll give you a long memory." With a slight exertion on the hand, click. Obadiah's palm twisted and folded in half. The blood was dripping, and the broken bones were clearly visible. "Ah! Damn it!" The severe pain caused Obadiah to kneel down and scream in agony, covering his hands with his hands. But no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't get rid of Yeling's hand. The bodyguard behind Obadiah only felt a dark shadow flash past. Then the master knelt on the ground and howled miserably. He immediately drew his gun and aimed at the Asian man wearing a black windbreaker in front of him. No hesitation at all, shoot. They are not ordinary bodyguards. Rather, they are elite soldiers among terrorists. With Obadiah, half protection and half surveillance. Bang! 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 Flashing together with the gunfire was Yeling's figure. The bullets all missed their target. Yeling caught one person and threw it like a bowling ball. The 5 bodyguards instantly rolled into a ball, their limbs showing strange twists. "It's you, mutant!" After Yeling solved the bodyguard, Obadiah instantly remembered Yeling. He has been monitoring Tony and investigated Yeling as early as when Yeling came into contact with Tony. After knowing that Tony spent $50 million because of Yeling, Obadiah is happy as long as Tony continues to lose money. Sooner or later, Stark Enterprises will become Obadiah Enterprises. As for the identity of mutant, Obadiah didn't even take it to heart. There are examples of hyena troops before us. Mutant poses no threat at all. Today, he is here to force me into a palace. Tony was critically ill and he had received confirmation from the doctor. What's more, Tony has no children. Now is the best time to seize Stark Enterprises. So Obadiah couldn't wait to meet Tony. The purpose is to get the authority in Tony's hands. Letting go of Obadiah's hand, Yeling turned to Pibbo and smiled. "Miss Pepper, on Tony's behalf, I am here to protect you." Pibbo was a little overwhelmed by the changes before her. But he reacted quickly. said to Obadiah, "Mr. Obadiah, please leave immediately. Tony will not see anyone now, and the decision to close the weapons department will not be changed." Holding back the pain, Obadiah stood up and fixed his bloody palms with a tie. His bald head was covered with sweat, and he glared at Pibo and yelling, "Very well, say hello to Tony for me." After saying that, he turned around and left. "Wait, take these losers like you away." Obadiah paused at Yelling's words, and then walked towards the bodyguard lying on the ground. After Obadiah struggled to move several bodyguards to the parking lot, he took out his pistol and pulled the trigger on several people. "When you're done, take out your phone. The plan went awry and your man died." Mutant did it, Yelling. After the frame-up was completed, the car door was just opened. Then I saw Yelling sitting inside. Yelling smiled and motioned for Obadiah to sit down. "Whatever you want, I can give you whatever Tony gives you." As a businessman, Obadiah immediately started negotiating mode. "How much Stark property have you secretly appropriated?" As soon as Yelling opened his mouth, Obadiah's eyes lit up. "Looks like there's something to talk about. How much do you want? We can split it 50-50. I want you to spit it all out." Yelling's tone was calm. The smile Obadiah had just shown was frozen on his face. "This is impossible." Obadiah's expression suddenly dropped. "The wealth that I have saved through decades of hard work. Taking out half of it," his heart was bleeding. "If it's difficult to handle, then don't do it." Yelling's eyes glowed red. Boom! A car burst into flames in an underground parking lot. The firelight illuminated Yelling, and the shadow dragged along and disappeared into the darkness. "Miss Pepper, you can start the operation." "Yes, Mr. Obadiah will not object." Chapter 28 The High Table Council emerges. "Please give me flowers and collect them." With Pibo's help, many of the encroached businesses have been taken back. Yelling looked at the task system of at the moment. Stark's corporate breach rate has dropped to 3%. It will soon be 0%. In the Stark building, Tony still stayed behind closed doors, just watching materials continue to come into the laboratory. What on earth is Tony doing? He hasn't eaten since he came out of the hospital. Pibo was waiting at the door of the laboratory, looking anxiously at the closed door. For the convenience of office, Pibo set up a temporary office directly at the door of the office. While operating the operation to recover the properties transferred by Obadiah. While waiting for Tony to come out, Yelling was basking in the sun boredly. After all, Pibo is now like the crystal in the family, although I am not afraid of Hydra's attack. But Pibo is an ordinary flesh and blood body. One bullet could kill her. This part of the industry is actually inoperable. Pibo frowned and looked at the unauthorized notification on his computer. Yelling raised his eyebrows and walked over from the window where the sunlight was shining. Finally, after some searching by Pibo, it was determined. This is not an industry that Obadiah transferred, this is Continental Hotel. Hearing the familiar name, Yelling rubbed his chin. This is an old acquaintance. I haven't seen Perkins for a while. Yelling missed the Persian cat a little bit. Inside the Continental Hotel in New York, the gray-haired Winston was sitting in the manager's office. A high-end custom-made suit and a glass of 82-year-old red wine from a Bordeaux winery. I hold a copy of the Decameron in my hand and read it slowly. The main thing is elegance. Since the last experience with Yelling, the entire New York killer world has come to a standstill. The legendary killer Night Stalker also retired. Winston was very happy and at ease. Clang clang clang. There was a crisp knock on the window. Turning around, a smiling face came into view. Black hair and black eyes, with an evil streak in his fortitude. Yelling, wearing a black windbreaker, was waiting outside the window to open it. Okay, what do you mean by that old Eastern saying? Say CAO CAO, CAO CAO is here. Press the phone at hand and call the front desk directly. Karen, I have guests, of the highest order. Okay, sir. After hanging up the phone, Karen pressed the ban notification. Attention all travelers staying at continental hotels. Please go back to your room immediately. You are not allowed to go out until the ban is lifted. Any violation of the ban will be regarded as a provocation to the hotel. The hotel will execute the killing order. The entire Continental Hotel in New York immediately entered the highest state of emergency. All this cannot be hidden from Yeling, who has super hearing. Stepping into Winston's office through the window with ease. After stepping on the soft carpet, I sat down on the Italian handmade sofa. Actually, you don't have to be like this. I'm not a natural-born murderer. Winston stood up and bowed like a gentleman. Nip problems before they happen. There is always no shortage of people in the killer world who dare to challenge the unknown. As soon as Winston finished speaking, Karen entered with the dining cart. Exquisite desserts and red wine are displayed on the gorgeous dining cart. Romani Conti, the highest rated bottle at the Continental Hotel in New York. After speaking, Winston poured a glass for Yeling himself. Karen saw his immediate superior's actions. He came to the door and left. He took the glass and took a sip. Didn't taste anything special. Sure enough, they are all gimmicks promoted by capitalists, specialized in taking advantage of rich people. I'm not here to drink today, I'm here to get something from you. Winston's heart skipped a beat. Don't think there is another blind killer who offends this one, right? He quickly searched his mind for the latest killer bounty. No. My heart was half relieved. I wonder what I have here that you need. Winston smiled his trademark gentle smile. Winston, come on, you are capable of great things. Stark Enterprises' European subsidiary Renner Enterprises has changed its name. I think it's time to return it to its original owner. Yeling's words made Winston put down half of his heart, but he immediately picked it up again. I have never heard of European subsidiaries. Please give me some time. Winston, who had always been calm and composed, had sweat on his forehead. I immediately picked up the phone and started checking. A call went directly to the Continental Hotel headquarters. Continuously updated as information is found. The sweat on Winston's forehead increased instead of abating. The frown on his brows became deeper and deeper, and there were a few more wrinkles. 10 minutes later, Winston put down the phone. He looked at Yeling with a troubled expression. The subsidiaries of Stark Enterprises have found out, but this matter. I'm afraid the Continental Hotel can't take care of it either. Yeling continued to shake the glass, as if he didn't hear. Winston took out a piece of paper and handed it to Yeling. Yeling glanced at it and raised his eyebrows. The Gramont family. After a long sigh, Winston said, the Continental is not the pinnacle of the killer world. On top of that, there's the High Table. They are the ones who control the world of killers. Continental hotels are spread all over the world because of the support of the High Table Council. Listen to Winston's story. Yeling probably got a glimpse of this High Table Council situation. The Continental Hotel is just one property of the High Table. The person who invaded Stark's corporate industry was one of the members of the High Table Council. French Gramont family. Winston had no say at all. It seems that you are willing to go all out and tell me this secret. Aren't you afraid that the high table will kill you? Winston smiled helplessly. Do I have any other choice? Putting down the wine glass, Yeling patted Winston on the shoulder. Relax, I'm easy to talk to. Well, let's tell that Gramont family. Spit it out for me as you eat. If you give me some more compensation, this matter will be over. After hearing this, Winston smiled bitterly. Sure enough, there is no way this person will suffer. He picked up the phone again and dialed the High Table Council hotline at headquarters. Yeling took the phone directly without waiting for Winston to speak. The High Table. Please tell a Gramont family. I'll spit out whatever Stark property I've eaten. Within 3 days, I want to see the sincerity of the Gramont family. That's all, hang up. The phone fell and Winston was stunned. Looking at Yeling hanging up the phone, I was stunned. Turning to look at Yeling. Is this a rhythm that's going to kill me regardless of Gramont's outcome? The High Table Council will certainly not let him go. In an instant, countless thoughts flashed through Winston's mind. Hesitation will lose, so he chooses. Yeling. Chapter 29 Night of Blood and Fire. Please give me flowers and collect them. Demand us to return it. Do you still want to compensate him? At the Château de Gramont in Paris, France. The classical-style conference room was filled with important members of the Gramont family. The Marquis, the patriarch of the Gramont family, laughed angrily. Wearing a gorgeous purple-gold noble robe with a fleur-de-lis embroidered on it. Exquisite and luxurious, it looks like it was made by a famous artist. He was playing with a golden antique pocket watch in his hand. With its simple quality, it is obviously an object that is hundreds of years old. However, even antiques like this have the family crest of the Gramont family. It is not difficult to see from the action of constantly opening and closing the watch cover. This distinguished big shot was in a bad mood. As one of the 12 members of the High Table Council, the Gramont family has a transcendent status in the entire world of killers. Because his ancestors had the title of Marquis. Each patriarch of the Gramont family has also maintained this title. The noble blood gives the Gramont family extraordinary status. But today I was provoked. A phone call from Continental Hotel headquarters challenged the Gramont family. On weekdays. This ignorant provocation will soon be addressed by the High Table. But now the call was recorded in its entirety. Sent to Gramont Manor. The Marquis scanned the room. The sharp eyes made the members present afraid to express their anger. What do you think? The people below were silent. Although the Marquis looks like he is only in his 20s. But in fact, the Marquis is 67 years old. He is older than all the family representatives present. The entire Gramont family is the Marquis's voice. I think this is a test from other families of the High Table Council. The 12 seats of the High Table are not static. Many underground families are waiting to sit at the High Table. If only the Gramont family showed the slightest sign of decline, you will be immediately removed from your seat on the High Table. Even the families in the 12 seats have their own groups. The underground family only needs the approval of the elders. You can challenge any of the 12 families in the parliament. Victory under the rules set by the High Table Council can replace the seat of the losing family. In the view of the Marquis, Yeling is just a chess piece thrown out by other families to test. This time, let other families see Gramont's methods. Tell them with practical actions. The Gramont family's status is not something they can covet. The night darkens the sky, and the lanterns begin to light up. Outside the presidential suite at the Continental Hotel in New York, Perkins wears a dark gray coat, with the waistband on both sides gathered in, outlining his slender waist. Wearing black leather boots, her long chestnut hair was styled in waves. After many years of being a killer, she never expected that there would be times when it was difficult for her to calm down. Nervousness, anticipation, or just knowing the taste after eating the marrow. He stretched out his hand to knock on the door but found that the door was not closed at all. Pushing the door open, I saw Yeling in a bathrobe. Ancient Greek art sculpted muscles. Full of power and Yeling's smile. The moment reminded Perkins of the battle he had experienced. Yeling smiled. "Miss Perkins, you're safe." He stepped forward and hugged Perkins into his arms. Feeling Yeling's strong breath coming towards his face, Perkins felt his legs become weak. "Winston didn't seem happy to tell you." His fingers traced circles on Yeling's chest. "Perkins is like a docile Persian cat," whispering softly. "It has nothing to do with you. That's not what you came here to say, right?" Yeling looked at the charming Persian cat in her arms and said to herself, "What a monster." Perkins smiled charmingly and unzipped his dark coat. "I think I can put you in a good mood." Yeling's eyes lit up with a different kind of light. "Acceleration suit. Then don't blame me for being rude." "Perkins, you are playing with fire. Hold me." Just when Perkins thought a violent storm was coming, Yeling suddenly spoke. "What?" Before Perkins could react, he felt a weightless dizziness. Yeling broke through the window and flew into the New York night sky with Perkins in his arms. Looking at the bright lights of New York City below, Perkins felt unrealistic. Humanity's desire for flight has long been engraved in our genes. Perkins once again updated his understanding of Yeling. Soon, Yeling stopped. Not far away, an armed helicopter almost blending into the night was approaching. The armed helicopter was heading towards the Continental Hotel. The pattern on the plane was immediately recognized by Perkins. The Gramont family. As a killer walking in the underworld, understanding the rule makers of the underground world is a must-learn subject. Each of the 12 houses of the High Table has its own unique symbol. Gramont's symbol is a spear. The Spear of Longinus represents absolute power and destructive power. Why did they come to New York? Could it be? A bold idea flashed through Perkins' mind and he turned to look at Yeling. "Bingo! You guessed it. They came to kill me." Gramont, it's very convoluted to read. Yeling's eyes glowed red and instantly turned into dazzling rays heading straight for the armed helicopter. The helicopter's outer shell melted the moment it came into contact with the heat sight. The red light beam accurately hit the helicopter's fuel tank. Boom! A firework exploded instantly in the New York night sky. The poor killer team turned into ashes before even seeing their target. With super hearing, the armed helicopter was exposed when it entered a range of 20 kilometers. All the crew's communications were clearly heard by Yeling. Gramont couldn't wait and sent out his killers. There is only one order, which is to kill Yeling in the Continental Hotel. Let all killers see the consequences of offending the Gramont family. Do the same for other council members. Perkins witnessed everything in Yeling's arms. In the blink of an eye, Gramont's killer team was wiped out. The more he saw, the more mysterious and powerful Perkins felt about Yeling. Perkins was more excited about death than flowers or money. High in the sky, the night wind blew. Perkins couldn't help but shrink into Yeling's arms. He raised his head and met Yeling's fiery gaze. A bad feeling flashed through Perkins' heart. Yeling only has one sentence: hold me tight. Wait a minute. Not here. You will die if you fall here. Let's go back first. Chapter 30, Working Together. Please give me flowers and collect them. completely annihilated. After the killer sent out lost contact, the Marquis soon received confirmation from the killer squad that the entire army had been wiped out. Holding a photo of Yeling in her hand, the golden pocket watch in the other hand was shape-shifted and made a mechanical jamming sound. How can a mutant be so capable? Pick me up to the Continental Hotel in New York. Soon, the call was answered. Winston's magnetic voice came from the other side. Hello, Mr. Marquis, this is the New York Continental Hotel. Listening to Winston's calm tone, the Marquis became even more angry. Winston, there will be no good end for traitors who cheat on others. Mr. Marquis, your man died on the plane, not in the Continental Hotel. After hearing Winston's retort, the Marquis hung up the phone directly. Winston obviously fell in love with Yeling. The Marquis didn't care whether it was because of instructions from other families or because he was tired of living. Let it be left to the tribunal. The High Table has its own rules. As long as Yeling does not die, the Gramont family will not be able to secure their seat. If killer doesn't work, then use other channels. Since it's a mutant, let us find professionals to do it. Get me through to Sentry. Paris, France. Yeling looked at the Eiffel Tower below. I didn't expect that the headquarters of the Continental Hotel would be so grandly located here. Although Winston did not know the address of the Gramont family, but Yeling was told the location of Continental's French Communications Center. The Communications Center will be the underground intelligence network. All bounties and intelligence will be concentrated and dispersed here. Now Winston is also gambling. Betting on Yeling's ability has damaged the Gramont family's strength. At that time, a new family will naturally take action to destroy the Gramont family. He will not be used as a target to scare the monkeys. Still able to be the manager of the Continental Hotel in New York. But Winston never expected that. Yeling traveled halfway around the world to do more than simply cause trouble for the Gramont family. Under the Eiffel Tower, Yeling walked into the elevator. The observation elevator does not reach Continental's communications center. But the killer has his own channel. After entering the sightseeing elevator, Yeling pressed the password on the stair floor number keyboard. The password is correct. Start portrait authentication. Authentication failed. Alert. Intruder. The elevator was blocked instantly and the alarm sounded. Looking at the camera in the corner, Yeling smiled and said hello. Yeling's response was the continuous spewing of highly toxic gas from the elevator. Interesting. Looking at the green gas, Yeling opened her mouth slightly. Hiss. A huge suction force instantly appeared in the small elevator. Countless green gas surged toward Yeling's mouth. Almost instantly, the green gas disappeared. This scene appeared on the big screen in the communication center. The security guard who pressed the gas button was stunned for a moment. What kind of monster is this? The supervisor who also witnessed this scene immediately compared Yeling's portrait. Soon, Yeling's information appeared. It turns out to be a mutant. You're just pretending to be a ghost. Throw the elevator down. So what if you ignore the poisonous gas? You can't hit him to death on the 36th floor. After saying that, the supervisor took a picture of the elevator release button. Snapped. The elevator fell instantly, and the surveillance camera in the elevator instantly lost its image. The supervisor's lips curved into a smile. He came to the communication center seeking death regardless of life or death. The defense here is stronger than the hotel. When connected to the sightseeing area of the tower, it was reported that the elevator was malfunctioning and a tourist died unfortunately. After making the call, the operator said in horror, "Supervisor, no elevator fell." What? As soon as he finished speaking, a loud noise was heard. Boom! The entire communication center trembled. The explosion-proof door at the elevator entrance made a sharp metal shape-shifting sound. Crack, click, click. Squeak. A pair of hands tore the blast door apart. Damn! Level 1 alert. In an instant, all the recorders started to move. Put on the ballistic lining and get out your firearm. In an instant, he went from being a record keeper to a combat soldier. All guns were pointed at the entrance. The supervisor's heart was in his throat. A call for help has been sent out, but we don't know when support will arrive. The action of tearing open the blast door from yelling. He knew that today's visit was not a good one. As soon as Yelling stepped out of the elevator, he heard a shout, "Shot!" The muzzle of the gun flashed instantly. Hundreds of bullets were fired at Yelling. Boring! Yelling moved his feet and instantly crossed a distance of tens of meters. Appeared in front of the supervisor, holding hands. The 1 meter supervisor was instantly grasped for life and death and fell to his knees. Looking up at Yelling, feeling the palm on his throat. The bald manager broke into a cold sweat. It reminds me of the scene in the surveillance video of Yelling tearing apart the explosion-proof door with his hands. Crack! The gun in his hand fell to the ground crisply. He didn't dare to bet whether the gun was faster or Yelling's hands were faster within 7 steps. "Mr. Yelling, what do you want?" Yelling raised his eyebrows. "You know me." The supervisor managed a smile with difficulty. "There is a bounty record for you in the database." "Very good, then you also have information about the Graymont family here, right?" Hearing this name, the bald manager's heart skipped a beat. If given, the Graymont family will not let him go. But if you don't give it, you will die now. Have. Seeing that the supervisor had compromised, the rest of the staff also gave up resistance. "Just kidding, how do you play with the teleporting Gundam that has a tear-proof blast door on the opposite side? What's the difference between a gun in your hand and a fire stick? No matter how good the gold coin is, it must have a life flower." Quickly jot down the handwritten note taken out by the bald supervisor. Yelling smiled. The Graymont family has a rich heritage, and his trip was not in vain. All the information about the Graymont family is here. The bald supervisor stood aside respectfully and delivered the final information. After writing it down, Yelling patted the supervisor on the shoulder. "Well done, you were the one who pressed the button that caused the elevator to fall, right?" "Ah!" The bald supervisor suddenly raised his head, and red light instantly filled his entire field of vision. Snapped! The shiny bald head burst like a watermelon. Yelling walked towards the floor-to-ceiling panoramic window. None of the staff present dared to raise their heads. When he reached out and pressed it, the bulletproof glass shattered instantly. The night wind poured into the room and blew the hem of Yelling's clothes. "Focus on the target in the distance, Graymont Manor." Boom! The headquarters of the communication center suddenly heard a loud sound. Yelling rushed towards Graymont Manor like a missile. Just 2 minutes, Graymont Manor appears at the feet of Yelling. Looking down, a familiar symbol appeared in view. Sentry Secret Service. Many soldiers from the Sentry Secret Service appeared in Graymont Manor. The leader among them was an old acquaintance of Yelling, Eclipse. Marcos.